Welcome to day 8 of our Dopamine Fast. Yesterday we talked about the nervous system and how relevant it is not just during this dopamine fast, but during our lives in general. Talked about how the nervous system is really at the root of why we feel the way we feel, why we act the way we act, why we think the way we think. It's really at the root of everything we do in our lives. So I provided you a few techniques yesterday to help bring yourself back to a rest and digest, sort of relaxed nervous system state when we find ourselves in either the shutdown or the activated states. Today, I want to provide a practice together. This practice is something that can be practiced any moment of your life. Nobody needs to even know you're doing it because it is just a way of breathing. So yesterday I explained that the nervous system experiences something that is stressful or threatening and then floods the nervous system with those stress hormones that activate us to get away or escape the danger. And I mentioned that there's different ways that we can bring ourselves back down to that resting state by completing the stress response. One of the key things to understand is how the breath is influenced by the nervous system state and can influence the nervous system state. So, let's say we're being chased by that predator in the Serengeti. What happens when the body is flooded with those stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol and others is that the nervous system sends the body into a protection mode, survival mode. And one of the things that it does that is so clever is that it activates certain muscles in the body to protect the organs, the vital organs of the body. One of the things that it does is it takes your diaphragm, which I'll explain in a moment, which exists down below your lungs, and it scoops your lungs up into your rib cage. The diaphragm rises up and pulls up into the ribs because the ribs are kind of like a suit of armor, right? It draws everything up into that protective cage that is the rib cage in order to protect us. And so, as you might imagine, when the lungs are compressed up into the rib cage, our breathing shortens. There's less room for the lungs to move, and we tend to breathe up into the chest. So you might notice that in moments when you are stressed out, you're chest breathing. You'll notice your neck, the tops of your shoulders, your chest, and your upper back are doing most of your breathing. In fact, today's modern world is so constantly stressful that for most people, this is the default way of breathing. Especially if you struggle with anxiety, this video is a very important one to you. A panic attack or an anxiety attack is largely fueled by the way we are breathing. Diaphragmatic breath is one of the most helpful and essential ways to keep your nervous system in a happy, healthy, resting state. So, when we escape from the danger, when the body completes the stress response and the nervous system gets the cue that we have escaped the danger, the diaphragm relaxes back down, the lungs have more room to breathe again, and they breathe down low. But this is a two-way street, right? We can also breathe this way in order to signal safety to the nervous system. So, close your eyes for a moment. You don't have to if you're doing something that you need to have your eyes open for, but eyes open or closed, bring your gaze, your internal awareness, to your rib cage down low. The diaphragm is a muscle that rests sort of like a hammock beneath the entire lower lungs, lower rib cage, down in the lower abdomen. When the diaphragm is very mobile, when it can move very easily up and down, this is the nervous system in a happy resting state. When we can train the breath to dip a little bit lower, or rather train the diaphragm to be more flexible and mobile like this, we are also teaching the nervous system that we are safe. So, a high locked up diaphragm is likely caused by stress and also signals stress to the nervous system and the body. Whereas a low and open and mobile diaphragm is both a sign that we are in a state of safety and a way that we can signal safety to the nervous system. And this can be done all day, every day. In fact, I hope after this video, you will be more aware of this type of breath and more motivated to practice it throughout your day today. Breath awareness is so key because you can learn a lot about how you're feeling by noticing the way you're breathing, and you can also influence the way you're feeling by breathing a certain way. So take a moment right now, not to do anything specific to your breath, just to notice your breath. Listen to the sound of your breath. And start to feel what I call the landscape of your breath. Start up high, the place where most of us are very familiar with breath happening. Collarbone, chest, neck, upper back. You might feel the rise and fall of your shoulders as you're breathing. That's okay, let it happen. And now drop your awareness down into your rib cage. Feel how it wraps around your whole body. I'll dip my camera here a little bit so we can all be with our rib cage together. So as we breathe down into the rib cage, that's like a 360-degree breath. We're breathing into the front of the rib cage. We're also breathing out into the sides of the rib cage. And if you can, find the breath in the back of your rib cage. And spend a few more breaths breathing into all sides of the rib cage. And become aware now of the space below your rib cage. Now, I want to note that for those of you who do struggle with anxiety or are feeling stress at this moment, it may not be possible in this particular moment to relax the diaphragm enough to breathe down into your low back or down into your belly. It might not be possible. That's okay. I myself have lived with intense anxiety. I went through a phase for years of my life where I was having panic attacks on a regular basis, and I know how frustrating it can be when you cannot breathe deeply for someone to be saying, take a deep breath into your lower lungs. It is okay if you can't do that right now. Know that the more you practice, the easier it will become. The diaphragm, just like any other muscle in the body, can get tight if it has been contracted for a long period of time. And just like any muscle in the body, it can gain flexibility as we work with it and stretch it. How do we stretch it? By breathing down low. It takes time. Bring your awareness into your lower back rib cage. So the very, very, very bottom. In fact, reach back and find your lower ribs. For most people, they're lower than they think they are. If you really follow your ribs and dig your fingers in, see if I can turn around here. If you really feel the lower ribs go down pretty darn low, right? Here, I'm at lower back rib cage. So my pelvis is right there. There's not much space at all between the lower back ribs and the top of the pelvis. So we really are talking about lower back. Focus your breath there. Inhale down into those low places. And here's a really key piece. You're not going to have room for a deep inhale if you don't exhale all the way first. So make room for these deep inhales by following your exhales all the way to emptiness. You might even feel your low belly intentionally squeeze in and up to squeeze the lungs empty, and then release that squeeze so you can invite the breath back down into the low belly, low back especially. And this is another key piece. It's not just about the landscape of the breath, breathing down into that lower landscape of breath. It's also about the pace of your breath. Think about it. On one end of the scale, we've got panic attack breath, or hyperventilating, breathing really quickly. On the other end of the scale is the opposite of panic attack, long, slow breath. So, for a few moments here, let's practice this all together. Exhale slowly, not with rush, all the way out. Gradually empty your lungs. And gradually breathe down and back. And you're not isolating the breath into that lower back space. You're also allowing the lungs to expand into the full rib cage, and yes, even into the chest and upper back. And again, gradually emptying the lungs all the way. The pace of your breath might not match the pace of my breath. That's okay. Take a few moments. This is a slow and steady wins the race kind of situation. The slower you breathe, the better. So take as long as you can to reach the end of that exhale. And take as long as you can to fill the lungs. If it feels possible, you might even linger for a few moments in those spaces or those lulls between your breaths. Think about the times in your life or the circumstances or environments in your life where you get the most worked up. Right? Maybe it's when you're doing the dishes because you hate them and you rush through them. Those are stress states. Maybe it's when you're driving. Think of the places when you find yourself stressed, irritable, rushing. I want you to picture yourself in one of those environments, practicing this breath. So continue this breath, long, slow, complete breaths. Inhales that drop as low as they can and expand into the back body as much as possible. And envision yourself breathing this exact breath in one of those stressful environments. Maybe you're picturing yourself at work, talking to a coworker, talking to your boss, reading through your emails. Long, slow, diaphragmatic breaths. Diaphragm dropping low to allow the lungs to expand more fully, and diaphragm drawing back up to help the exhales empty your lungs. To integrate this into your dopamine fast, know that in those moments of craving, in those moments of boredom, in those moments where you feel the strong desire to reach for something, anything to make this moment better, diaphragmatic breath is a thing you can reach for. Not only will it soothe your nervous system and make you feel better, it's also very helpful for getting you through or helping you through the discomfort of the moment, whether that's craving, whether that's boredom, whether that's discomfort or hard emotions or a swirling mind. Diaphragmatic breath will help. So save this video, make a note to yourself to return back to today's video, and practice this breath with me whenever you need to get yourself through something hard or soothe yourself in a healthy way. I'll see you in tomorrow's video.